Early next year, we are getting some brand new Universes Beyond Commander decks, and this time they are set in the world of Fallout. Today, we just learned a bunch of new information about the set, including what the 4 precons are going to look like, some awesome frame treatments, and some spicy reprints. Let's talk about all of it. First off, let's talk about the product as a whole. Coming out March 8th, you can expect 4 Commander precons along with collector boosters. This is very similar to the Doctor Who release with 4 precons and collector boosters as well. It will feature new and reprinted cards in the style of Fallout, with each deck focusing around a different faction or kind of a theme within the world of Fallout. Unlike Doctor Who, they're not dividing it by era, so it's not like there's going to be a Fallout 4 deck and a Fallout New Vegas deck. Instead, they're divided into factions very similar to the Warhammer 40k decks. In terms of legality, just like Doctor Who, these will only be legal in Eternal formats, so things like Vintage, Legacy, Pauper, and Commander. Let's talk about all 4 precons now. Starting off, Scrappy Survivors is a red, green, and white Commander deck that focuses around auras and equipment and focuses on the brand new token type Junk. Junk are a token artifact that you can tap to sack to exile the top card of your library, and then you can play that card this turn, but you can only do it as a sorcery. So it's essentially a clue that has you impulse draw, but you don't need any mana to do it, so it's actually quite powerful. The deck is led by Dogmeat Everloyal. It's a red, a green, and a white for a legendary creature dog 3/3 that when it enters the battlefield, you mill 5 cards, then you can return an aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. Then whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, create a Junk token. The rest of the deck focuses around those auras and equipments, kind of representing the equipment and the skills and the perks you unlock throughout the game, and it seems like a really fun Commander deck. However, this isn't the only version of Dogmeat. We also have the Pip-Boy treatment, which is found exclusively within the collector boosters. This treatment can be found in non-foil, traditional foil, and surge foil within those collector boosters, and they really give off a great Fallout vibe. The next deck is the Mutant Menace deck, which is a black, green, and blue deck that cares all about rad counters. Rad counters obviously represent the radiation from the apocalyptic world of Fallout, and what they do is that at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, if you have any rad counters, you mill that many cards, and then for each non-land card milled that way, you lose a life and you lose a rad counter. Essentially, it's going to mill away your library, and as many rad counters as you have, you'll eventually take that much damage, but it may prolong a little bit as you're milling lands instead of hitting non-land cards. These counters can be found on awesome new cards like the Face Commander, the Wise Mothman, which is 1, a black, a green, and a blue for a legendary creature Insect Mutant that's a 3/3 with flying. And whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, each player gets a rad counter, so that includes you, that includes your opponents. Then whenever 1 or more non-land cards are milled, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to X target creatures, where X is the number of non-land cards milled this way. What's interesting about this is that you get the rad counters, so you will be taking damage and milling, and so will your opponents, but that's good because your commander cares about whenever anyone mills any number of non-lands, not just you. So this is a really interesting way that the deck works, where it is kind of a mill deck, but it's not necessarily trying to mill you out, it's just trying to get value off of putting cards in your graveyard. This card also comes in one of those really awesome Pip-Boy frames, and so you can see it here as well. Next up is the Hail Caesar deck. It's a black, white, and red deck that cares all about sacrificing and creating lots of creatures. It doesn't have a new mechanic necessarily, but the commander is Caesar, Legion's Emperor, which is 1, a red, a white, and a black for a 4/4 that says whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, choose 2. Create 2 1/1 red and white soldier creature tokens with haste that are tapped and attacking. You draw a card and lose a life, and Caesar deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent. The deck obviously wants you to create a lot of tokens and then swing with them to win, dealing damage with Caesar and then maybe sacrificing a token to create 2 more. I think those will be the 2 most common modes, but the ability to also draw a card is really good there as well. Early game, you're going to create 2 1/1s and draw a card, and then later in the game, you're going to create 2 1/1s and deal damage. It's kind of, are you trying to build up your value and build up your board, or are you trying to win the game? And Caesar kind of has all of those abilities on him, so I think it's a really fun commander. And finally, we have the Science Precon, which is red, white, and blue, and focuses all around scientist and energy counters. The deck is led by Dr. Madison Lee, which is blue, a red, and a white for a 2/3, and it says whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy counter. Then you can tap and pay an energy to give target creature +1/+0 and trample and haste until end of turn. You can tap and pay 3 energy counters to draw a card, and you can tap and pay 5 energy counters to return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Kind of reminds me a lot of Caesar, where it's a very versatile commander that can draw you cards, try to win you the game with trample and haste, or, give you some value there with that recursion ability. This is a card that will be useful no matter when you cast it in the game, and as long as you're casting a bunch of artifact spells, you'll be sure to get a lot of energy and be able to activate these abilities a lot. Seems like a fun commander, and I'm excited to see the return of energy, as it's a mechanic we really haven't seen since Kaladesh. Caesar and Dr. Madison Lee also come in the Pip-Boy frame, and they look really awesome there as well. There are 26 cards in total that have that, and of those, 9 of them are reprints with alternate card titles and new art. Now those were the decks, but we still have a lot of spoilers and a lot of things to talk about, so let's jump into more of that. Starting off, let's talk about the full art lands. There are 2 for each, and they look really awesome. There's the first kind, which are really beautiful, and they kind of show this character progressing on a journey, and then they have another set that are based on the original Fallout and kind of that art style as well, and you'll find both of these in the commander decks themselves. So they will have full arts in the commander decks, and they'll be available in foil and surge foil in the collector boosters. We also have a couple other really cool cards. We have things like Command Tower, obviously in the Fallout style, but we also have cards like VATS, which is the targeting system in game. It's a 4-cost black instant with split second, and it has you choose any number of target creatures with equal toughness and destroy the chosen creatures. So really flavorful and really cool card. You know, split second's pretty powerful, and I'm excited to see more cards with random mechanics from Magic's past that are so flavorfully done. Next up, they have these things called Vault Boy reprints, which are cool reprints from Magic's past with Vault Boy on them. So for example, Soul Ring and Arcane Signet are both really awesome cards in this cool borderless frame, and those are going to be cards that are in the commander decks, but these versions are only found in the collector boosters. However, they also showed off cards like Crucible of Worlds, which they didn't make it obvious if this is actually in the commander decks and then they have this alternate version in the collector boosters, or if it's just going to be an exclusive reprint to the collector boosters. Alongside that, they have Wasteland, which is making me think they aren't going to be in the commander decks because I really don't see them printing Wastelands into a commander precon, but I could be wrong there. Next up, we have Bobbleheads, which are a new type of artifact. They showed off Intelligence Bobblehead, which is a 3-cost artifact that lets you tap to add 1 mana of any color, and then you can pay 5 and tap it to draw X cards, where X is the number of Bobbleheads you control. There should be 7 of these in total, and these are the cards that will be serialized in the set. So you can find a normal version of them, but there will also be serialized versions of them, so 500 copies of each for 3,500 serialized cards total. They'll be in this alternate frame, and they'll be in their double rainbow thing. You know, we've seen it with Doctor Who, we saw it with March of the Machine, we saw it with Lord of the Rings. It's kind of becoming a normal thing at this point, but there are serialized cards in the collector boosters of Fallout. We also got another new commander. It's Mr. House, President and CEO. It's red, white, and black for a legendary artifact creature 0/4, and it says whenever you roll a 4 or higher, create a 3/3 colorless robot artifact creature token. If you rolled a 6 or higher, instead create that token and a treasure token. Then you can pay 4 and tap it to roll a 6-sided die plus an additional 6-sided die for each mana from treasures spent to activate this ability. It's a really interesting card that cares about you rolling dice, and it's just kind of a fun commander. Of course, like all Magic sets at this point, there will also be extended art cards. So for example, this is extended art Rex Cyber-Hound, which is a 3-cost Azorius commander, 2/2, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they mill 2 cards and you get 2 energy. Then you can pay 2 energy to choose target creature card in a graveyard and exile it with a brain counter on it. Now you can only do this as a sorcery, but then Rex has all activated abilities of all cards in exile with brain counters on them. So Rex is going to kind of exile things out of graveyards, which is really good, mill your opponents a little bit there as well, and then gain a bunch of abilities from the exiled cards. Those can be your cards that are exiled, your opponents. It really doesn't matter as long as they have a brain counter on them. That's almost everything they revealed today. They also revealed how they're doing vaults, which are a big thing in the Fallout universe. For example, this is Vault 101 Birthday Party. It's a 4-cost white enchantment saga. It has you create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token and a food token, and then turns 2 and 3, you may put an aura or equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. If an equipment is put on this way, you may attach it to a creature you control. So they're, vaults are kind of telling a story throughout all the Fallout games, and so they are doing the same thing here with sagas. So you can expect to see vaults in all 4 commander decks, and this is just an example of one of them. So yeah, that's kind of a first look at Fallout. We'll get more spoilers in January of next year. I'll be doing a couple of videos talking about, specific commanders or spoilers as YouTube shorts, so stay tuned and subscribe for those. If you want to see more content now, check out this video where I talk about how Wizards is killing set and draft boosters in 2024, and this video where I talk about 10 awesome cards that are overlooked that you should be putting in your commander decks. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.